Hi, this is Trepacer. Welcome to Trepacer's Saturday Horror Reviews, episode, that's 22. And I went back to the classics. I'm a big Universal horror fan, and the movie that I wanted to watch, I guess again, it's been a long time since I've seen it. And, of course, it came from the, from the Coffin edition of the Universal Monster series. Okay, and I'm talking about, I guess, the one that you can say, I guess, started it all for me, at least. 1931's Frankenstein, and there's a great shot of there of Boris Karloff right there. There's the monster right there. It's an awesome set, and there's a great shot of Boris Karloff there. That's the monster, and everybody pretty much knows the story. Although they changed things around a little bit in the movie, of course. In the movie, it's Henry Frankenstein. I think in the book it's Victor Frankenstein, and his best friend is Henry. In this version, it's Henry Frankenstein, and his best friend is Victor. Okay? Now, of course, the story is Henry Frankenstein being obsessed with creating life. And at the beginning of the movie, it starts off great with a funeral, and everybody's tearful and everything, and then you see Henry Frankenstein and Fritz, his assistant, peeking back, and then they kind of punch back, and wait till everybody leaves, and then the body's buried, and then they immediately jump down there and dig up the body and take it down, and then you see them, pulling the casket along, and then they see a hanged man, and they cut him down. He has Fritz cut him down, and then they say, oh, but the brain is damaged, it's too late. So they basically have to steal a brain, okay? And he sends Fritz to steal a brain, but of course, in the infamous, he sends him to the school that he used to be a student at, and of course, there's a normal brain and an abnormal brain. No, the abnormal brain is the criminal brain, and you have the professor. Who's Dr. Waldman, who's was a teacher of Henry Frankenstein, basically explaining to the class, this is the normal human brain, and this is the abnormal brain, where the criminal mind led a violent life, of course, and then they leave the brain and they go out, and then Fritz comes in and he snatches the normal brain, but of course he gets frightened by hearing a noise and drops the normal brain, and of course grabs the abnormal brain and takes it back to Frankenstein, and of course Henry Frankenstein, and of course his fiancée Elizabeth is worried, and she's confiding to Victor's to best friend, to Henry's best friend Victor, that she's worried about Henry because she hasn't heard from him, and of course she's worried about that he's obsessed with his experiments, and he said he can't be disturbed, but they're engaged and they're due to be married, and of course so she wants to investigate it, and they decide to go to see Dr. Waldman, his professor, and his professor basically breaks it down to him and says, listen, he's been obsessed with creating life, okay, and he wants, in the bodies that they had experimented on in the classroom, those weren't good enough for him. He wanted fresh bodies, okay, and of course they're freaked out by that, but they said, listen, we have to go see him and see what's going on, and they implore him to come with them, and first he doesn't want to go, but then he kind of relents and goes. And then, of course, it's just the same night that Frankenstein Henry is getting ready to experiment with his creature. He's putting in the brain. He basically shows Fritz the brain that the skull where he puts the brain in, and the hands that are sewn together from parts, and he's going to create this life. But of course, when he gets ready to do it, there's a knock at the door, and of course it's Elizabeth and his best friend Victor and Dr. Waldman, and he lets them in and said, first he wants them to go away, but then he relents and lets them in and basically tells them, listen, I'm going to create life, okay, and sit there and watch. And of course he does the famous pull-up, striking with the lightning, and of course then you get the infamous scene of it's alive, which is absolutely fantastic. Colin Clave, I thought he was great as Frankenstein. He's a little over the top. But I thought he was great as a success, as you would be, I guess, a guy that's obsession driven to create life. because I think there's even a scene where he's explaining to Dr. Waldman how he, when they first get there, how, he taught him how what creates life, the sparks of life. He said he's gone past that point and he's going to create life. And of course, like I said, the creature comes to life, and then you see, I guess it's a few days later, and you see that first iconic appearance from Boris Karloff as the creature, and he comes in backwards and he kind of turns around, and you see that haunting image of him as the creature. And Henry explains, they kept him in the light, in the dark for so long. Now we're gonna, create light, show him the light, and they lift up the thing just so you can see, the creature can see, light. And of course he stares at it, and he's constantly at a wonder. But see, at the same time, the the assistant Fritz has been basically tormenting the creature, and basically the creature basically snaps at one point and basically kills Fritz. And basically, he is, and Dr. Waldman is convinced, he relents after Fritz gets killed to convince Henry, listen, we got to kill this creature. It's too dangerous to live. And of course, they subdue the creature, and of course, Henry, I guess, comes to his senses for a minute, and then he decides to go back with Elizabeth and basically, get engaged and forget about the creature, because of course Dr. Waldman's going to dissect the creature. But of course, things don't go as planned, of course, and the creature escapes and goes into the countryside. And I know they say he's supposed to be terrorizing the countryside, but they don't really show him terrorizing. I mean, there's the classic incident where he meets up with the young girl, and they're tossing the flowers, and of course he of course, being basically a brand new creature with a abnormal brain, doesn't understand, and tosses the girl into the lake and drowns her. And of course the father comes back and comes to the town and says, listen, my daughter's been drowned, and there's a madman on the loose. And then they of course go into the search parties. Now the interesting thing I found about, I guess I didn't remember this the way it happened, but they split into search parties to go get him. But of course, and also, I forgot, the creature comes back. I guess he comes back. I forgot about that part. He comes back to on the day that Henry's getting married, and of course, attacks Elizabeth, and he's in the castle running amok. And I think he did kill another guy, because they see some guy on the road that's when they're searching for the creature. He's kind of, he doesn't look. He's not dead. I guess he's just knocked out or whatever, because you see him moaning. And anyway, they split up the search parties. But interesting, I guess nobody knows really, except I guess the best friend Victor, that that Frankenstein has created this creature that's this madman that's running amok, because they put they put Henry in charge of one of the search parties, and he goes out looking for the creature, of course, and you have the classic confrontation with him at the windmill. Him and the creature. And like I said, this movie is, I guess, especially for its time, 70 minutes. It's a really good story. Like I said, it's different from the book. Okay, it's with the character names and stuff and certain things, the way they happen. But I really, of course, enjoyed Frankenstein, of course, because like I said, I'm a big Universal monster fan, and this movie is, like I said, it moves. And like I said, I love Colin Clay's portrayal of Frankenstein. Like I said, he's obsessed. You can believe that he's obsessed with life, and creating life, and to the detriment of anything else. He doesn't care. All he cares about is, he wants to create life. He wants to do something that nobody else has ever done before. Okay, so he's driven, and he does a great portrayal. And of course, Boris Karloff is the monster. I thought it was great. He's sympathetic. Doesn't have dialogue at all, but you can feel his pain exactly, especially he's created and he's basically trying to learn stuff, and then he's getting tormented by Fritz and locked up, and of course he's a creature. And then plus you have to figure in the fact that he's a newborn kid with immense strength and with an abnormal brain, so of course his reactions are not going to be normal. So it's just a classic movie, and I absolutely really enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed Ride a little bit more than this one, but this was the one that started it all. And I would give Frankenstein, the original, I would give that an 8 out of 10. Okay, I think it's really very well done, especially for its time. And again, the guy who plays Dr. Waldman, Edward Van Sloan, he's also, of course, Van Helsing, of course, and Dracula, of course. And then you got the little prologue where he comes out and basically tells you what you're about to see, and in case you're squeamish, now's your time to leave. I thought it was a nice little touch that they put at the beginning of the movie. Okay, and the direction, of course, by James Well is really good. Of course, I like the set pieces and stuff in this movie. So definitely, Frankenstein is definitely one to watch. It's a classic, of course, and definitely one to see. Anyway, for those who haven't seen it, let me know what you think. Or those who've seen it, let me know what you think. Okay, feel free to leave comments down below. And if you haven't seen it, you definitely should see it because it's a classic movie. And like I said, it started all the great universal horror craze. And also, if you like this review, please hit the subscribe button down below. And I'll also put this review up on the Horoscope 101 channel because I'm still putting videos on there. And okay, and also be on my channel, of course. And this is Trepacer saying so long and take care.